Hello students, a warm good evening. Hope all the efforts that you have put for all these days for CSE 2023, they have resulted in a positive way, and hope you all have done well in all the papers, not only geography. So before we discuss these 7 questions related in GS paper 1 related to geography, let me wish you all best of luck for the result. So let's try to understand the questions that have come as far as geography is concerned. Except for one question, rest all the questions, only one question related to Purvaya, that is your monsoon question. Except for that, all other questions are straight from the book questions, and there isn't much of confusion for the student. Even in the examination hall, if one is reading the question paper, there was no requirement of getting panicked also, because things were very straight, and there was no playing with words in the questions, except for this Purvaya question. When that question comes, I'll tell why I'm talking so much about it. We will discuss about it. So let's start with our question, first question related to geography. That is, discuss the consequences of climate change on the food security in tropical countries. And usually when we are writing mains examination, our intention should be first to try to read the mind of the examiner, that what he is expecting from us. So for that, first read the question very properly, the terminologies used and what is expected from you in the answer. And more importantly, for example, in this, it's 150 word question. See, such question, if it is asked for at least 2000 words, comfortably anybody will write. Writing a larger answer is very easy. An essay for 10 pages, 15 pages, deliberate on it, talk about every factor, every aspect, it's very easy. But making it so concise, putting it in 150 words, that itself is such a Herculean task, because you cannot miss important points and you cannot stretch your answer. So in both the ways, it's a tightrope walk. One should be very careful. So for that, what you need to understand is, at least if it is 150 words, see to it that 50, 50, 50, you will try to divide it at least into 3 parts or 4 parts of the answer, and see to it that main aspects that are touched in the question are touched in the answer with an introduction and conclusion. That's the safest way. Usual safest way. So when it comes to this, he is talking about the consequences. Consequences of what? Of climate change over this food security, and he is very clear about the area, tropical countries. Now this is a general problem, climate change, and anyone who prepares GS, for GS, not alone geography, anyone who prepares for GS nowadays, if he doesn't know climate change, then he is not at all ready for UPSC examination. That's almost a first basic prerequisite sort of thing in GS, essays, everything. So climate change is something that everybody knows, that what he is talking about. Now, you know what climate change means. Also, its fall, that is its impacts on different aspects. But now, not on different aspects, he is very clear about food security. So what do you mean by food security? Usually, when he is talking about climate change and food security, it should be about the agricultural activity. Agricultural activity of tropical countries. So the question is, it's as simple as it is, what is the impact of climate change on the agricultural crops related to mostly food crops in tropical countries? So let's see one after the other. Climate change poses severe threats to food security in tropical countries. Start with that statement only because it's a proven fact. We are neither negating it nor we are deliberating on it. That's a fact. Just state it. And moreover, 150 words, so we need not to stretch it. What is climate change then? Rising temperatures, altered precipitation patterns, extreme weather events. So, as I said, because we are bound with word limit, try to pick up those words that will give maximum impact and that will have more meaning with a short word. So that's why these three are more than enough when we talk about climate vis-a-vis agriculture. Please. Climate vis-a-vis agriculture. Then it is first temperature, second is precipitation. These are the prerequisite aspects as far as climate and agricultural study is concerned. Third would be extreme weather events, like you all know, cyclones and all those impacts of extreme weather conditions. So what will they do? All these three: disrupt normal agricultural production, leading to reduced crop yields. And what will that do? And also increased vulnerability to pests and diseases, because see, if irrigation totally decreases or increases a lot, has negative impact. If temperature increases too much, has negative impact. So in some cases, the pests also will get conducive environment, because of which that pest attack on agricultural activity takes so much speed that it will decrease the crop for that particular year or for that particular area. So, water scarcity, exacerbated changing rainfall patterns and prolonged droughts hampers irrigation and threatens rain-fed agriculture. Now, we know that it's tropical countries. Tropical countries in general, wherever we are talking, they depend more on irrigation that is based on rainfall. That is your river irrigation, stream irrigations, because tropical countries in general are expected to get more rainfall than temperate. So obviously tropical countries, equatorial region has more rainfall, no doubt about it, but equatorial region is not that conducive to agricultural activity when you compare with tropical countries. Reason is there is more forest cover in equatorial biome region, so there is that particular region is not good for agricultural activity. Usually tropical biome region, tropical regions are more densely agricultural regions, along with temperate regions, of course, no doubt about it. But only thing is, when we talk about temperate regions, as far as agriculture is concerned, it is not alone rain-fed. and they are not more related to those crops are not more related to water required crops like paddy, but these regions are water required agricultural varieties, that is paddy and all. So they are threatened by this changes, variations that happen in rainfall, which will hamper irrigational facilities, and at times this climate change leading to prolonged droughts. And because this entire area is, as I said, more dependent on rainfall, so entire agricultural crop produce gets hit because of this. Now this is one scenario. Second scenario is coastal regions face the peril of sea level rise, resulting in salt water intrusions and land loss when sea levels, eustatic sea levels rise. So these are, and why does sea levels rise? Because of climate changes. Why? Because glaciers get melted. So glaciers get melted because of climate change. That impact is felt on sea level rises, and that further will damage the prospects of agricultural activities along the coastal areas. So these are considered as the main problems that are related to climate impact on agricultural activity. Now, also, biodiversity loss due to habitat destruction and disrupted ecosystems. Of course, that is what will happen because of this changes. That is, if drought, habitat loss will happen. Ecosystems will get destroyed. If your coastal regions get submerged, same thing will happen. So all this leading to impact on food production. Ultimately, what is that is more worried for us? That the end result is food production will get affected, will decrease, and in such case, food price volatility, that's the next biggest problem. In economics, we call it as inflation. So food price volatility driven by climate related crop failures makes nutritious food less accessible to vulnerable population. So what is the end result of all this? That wherever you have vulnerable populations, mind you, tropical countries are more densely populated countries when compared to the rest of the other regions of the world. One of the reasons is that tropical countries have more agricultural activity and people depend more on agricultural activity. They are densely populated countries. So if food prices get disturbed, imbalanced, that impact is always there on below average and poor people, and they are more vulnerable for such changes happening, and that can lead to fast migration. Now you can see people running away from Libya, Sudan, Pakistan. Why is this happening? Now, of late, whatever the economic crisis that is happening in Pakistan has led to people fleeing away from Pakistan for better livelihood. That is but natural human demographic attribute that happens. Anywhere it happens. Because at the end of the day, people search for better livelihood. So, that leads to more migrations. And more migrations, that too, see, migrations in a more controlled way, normal level, never will create issues. But influx happens from one country to another country on a mass scale, like that is happening with Rohingyas in India, or Libyans, Sudanese, Pakistanis to European countries. All this, they will create conflict. They can create conflict among people because one is searching for better livelihoods, another one is potentially destabilizing, getting destabilized, and their regions getting destabilized. All these are the problems. So adaptation challenges persist due to limited resources and knowledge. That's the challenge that they have. So to mitigate these consequences and ensure food security, strategies such as climate resilient agriculture, that is, even if there are some sort of climatic changes happening, then that variety or that practice of agriculture that can withstand such climatic changes to an extent. Beyond a point, it is not possible. That is understandable. Agriculture, improved water management, because irrigation is always an issue, and more so in tropical countries we are talking about. So improved water management, diversification of food sources, that means not only depending upon agriculture but allied activities and making other animal husbandry or any other that allied activities, and making at least that food security as a primary motive, leading to, or some social safety nets, like giving them, whoever are the vulnerable class, giving them subsidies and all those things. And of course, land use that is more sustainable. So these will be more essential such steps to be taken up, for which international cooperation to reduce emissions. Why? Because in the question, the problem is about climate change. These are those problems that can be dealt by government of a country till here. Up to that extent, no problem. But this problem, one government cannot do. One country cannot do. So when we are talking about climate change, we need to talk about international cooperation, such that, like your COP meetings and Kyoto protocols, implementing them, reviewing them, so creating such mechanisms such that emissions are reduced to a very larger extent, such that it will not help a government to get rid of the problem in a year. Such measures, but such measures in a long run, like right now in 90s decades, we were more worried about ozone depletion. So with all these measures, now the recent reports say that ozone depletion has reduced. So in such way, these long-term impacts of climate change on food security in tropical countries can be addressed. So that is how you have to conclude the answer. See, as I said in the beginning only, such questions, if you ask to be, if they ask you to write in 2000 words, 2500 words, it's very easy. You can touch upon all those things. Now you have limited word limit, but you need to talk about everything. So what we have done is we have tried to cut it into three paragraphs. First paragraph, we spoke about what are those climate changes, whatever, all the aspects. Second thing, impact of that on bio as well as the agricultural aspects. Third one, mitigation measures. So that's how we can do. That is what we have discussed in this. Question number 2. Why is the world today confronted with a crisis of availability and access to freshwater resources? Now, he in the question itself is accepting that there is a confrontation in access to freshwater resources and availability of freshwater resources. In fact, he is asking us why, the reasons. So in one way, if you remove why is the, this is the statement. World today confronts with a crisis of availability and access to freshwater resources. That's how it is. So you need to just discuss it. That why such confrontation is happening for freshwater resources. Let's see. Even this is 150 words. So need to be very concise and precise. The world faces a crisis in fresh water availability. You have to make a statement because it is already given in the question. And access due to several interconnected factors. Due to all interconnected factors, many, not one. And what are they? Population growth, urbanization, industrialization have increased water demand. Simple. In 2-3 words, we have in short said, whatever the present settlement patterns and economic activities are happening, they are squarely responsible for straining the existing water resources, which in itself they are not plenty. See, we all know that if we consider 100% as the entire water that is available on earth, of that 97% is saline. So it is never potable water. It is not fresh water at all. So remaining 3% is what the fresh water constitutes of. Of the 3%, 2% is underground. That means they are not directly accessible to us. How much is accessible to us? Just 1% is directly accessible to us. In the form of all the rivers, all the lakes, all the glaciers, wherever it is potable and drinkable. That everything put together is only 1%. So that means almost 99% of the water is straight away not accessible. Of that, 97% is never potable. 2% is not straight away accessible. You need to go for different mechanisms like digging bore wells or something of that sort. So whatever 1% is there, that 1% has problems and conflicts. So that is what we have to discuss now. And that 1% is strained a lot. He has lots of pressure on that 1%. Why? Because of population growth, because of urbanization, and because of industrialization. They have increased water demand, all the three. Population growth for general livelihood purpose, that is cleaning, drinking, cooking. So these three at least are the basic necessities of every society at every level, at every time period. 2000 years back it was, now it is, further it will be. Cleaning, drinking and cooking. You have no other option. For those three you need water. So as the population grows, these three demands keep on growing. So population growth is question number 1. Urbanization. Now, urbanization, how is that responsible for strain on the existing water is? See what happens. In normal conditions, if it's a rural area, let's just imagine if it's a rural area, at least when there is rainfall, because we know that now available is only 1% that is potable. When there is rainfall, water gets percolated over there. In urban areas, everything is cemented, everything is tar, every inch is constructed. So, question for percolation of waters underground itself. Underground does not get recharged easily. So, that's the biggest problem. Plus, in rural areas, people are spread horizontally. In urban areas, people are vertically spread, thanks to the apartment cultures. So pressure on per square meter is very high, beyond imagination when it comes to urbanization. In such case, for example, in a 100 square yards plot, if in a rural area, hardly 4 people, 5 people, 6 people will stay, but in that same thing, in urban area, he will construct at least 3 floors, each floor having 2 families, 6 families, each at least having 4 people, 6 4, sir. Gone. So that's the pressure we are talking about. Urbanization has on it, plus industrialization. Every industrial activity needs water for cleaning, for running the machines, for all those mechanisms. There are few machines which only run on vapor. So for all that, water is required, and usually not saline water. Salty water, salt incrustation takes place. So drinkable water only. Plus, in turn, they will produce so much of pollution that they will make the otherwise clean water into polluted water. So they have increased, all these have increased water demand, straining the existing resources. Climate change, it exacerbates this crisis by altering precipitation patterns and causing more frequent and severe droughts. Again, to square one, that has brought the problem to. So, number one, population growth is happening, leading to urbanization. Industrialization has become a norm of the day. Anyhow, these things are straining the existing resources to a lot of extent. Now, added to these problems, what is happening is climate change, which simply exacerbates the problem. It accelerates, it increases the problem so much that this entire precipitation alterations and rainfall alterations leading to droughts, leading to flooding, all these are problems. And poor water resource management is considered as one aspect that is related to this water problem, plus pollution, over extraction of groundwater, that is because of your urbanization, further deplete freshwater reserves, inequitable distribution of water resources. Again, that will accelerate the crisis, as many vulnerable communities lack access to safe drinking water. See, after 75 years of independence, one of the promises that political parties at the time of elections will come out and say, we will provide safe drinking water to everyone. So that means after 75 years also, still that happens to be our primary problem. That accessibility to safe drinking water is one of the biggest challenge that are, because we are globe's largest populous country. So that's a huge issue for us. And whoever they are good at their purse, who can spend on it, they can purchase tankers, they can take care of things, they can go for mineral waters. But what about those vulnerable people? People who, for meeting both ends itself is a big problem. Again, buying the water and making use of it is a huge challenge for them. So for drinking or sanitation, all this, vulnerable population are hit more, poor people. So along with them, now agricultural activity, because that is a major water user for us, often employs inefficient irrigation practices. See, the problem is, wherever there is, whoever has access to water, more water near the tanks, villages I am talking about, village tanks, they keep on draining their fields with more water, and they don't leave waters for people who are below them. So non-judicial usage of waters for irrigation is also one of the biggest problem. Of late, actually, governments are coming up with water usage committees in villages, whose responsibility to see to it that the fag-end person also in the edge of the water capture area will get sufficient waters for his irrigation. So inefficient irrigation practices should be dealt with, and that will accelerate the scarcity. Additionally, conflicts over water resources are becoming more prevalent because of, this is more important, geopolitical dimensions to the crisis. Let's take the example of what is happening about Kaveri waters between the states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. When there are governments that are related to same political ideology or political parties at center and at two states, what happens is, at least they will not make it a political issue, they will not make it a poll plank, and they will try to accommodate people and accommodate the necessity and judicially work on it. But imagine if there are three political parties, three different fighting, waging war between themselves at these places, then everybody wants to prove that their ideology is fine. Everybody want to prove that their political plank is more better for people than the other. And in this due course, what happens is, judicious side of the problem takes a second seat and politics take a front seat, and rather than sitting across the table and rather than settling the dispute, people will indulge more in creating the disputes, aggravating the issues, such that they can take more political mileage from it. So geopolitical dimensions for water crisis is something that is there in between countries. Example is India, Pakistan, Indus waters. And between states, example just now I have given you between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. In the state, between districts also there. And sir, at times between villages from a same tank, in the same tank between families in the village, it's normal. Whenever there are conflicting interests amongst people, it doesn't make any difference whether it is interstate, intervillage, interfamily, interpersonal. Everything will come into picture, because end of the day that has to do with geopolitical dimension, and that is very, very crucial issue. So addressing this crisis requires what? Sustainable water management, which is very important. That means use water to an extent that is required to you, rest leave it, and whoever has riparian states, riparian stakeholders, let's not use the word states, riparian stakeholders, it can be countries, states, villages, families, whatever it is. So riparian stakeholders judiciously getting their rights. That's very important, and making judicious use of that resource. So sustainable water management, improved infrastructure for the same, such that much of the leakages are averted, much of the water is not wasted, not getting evaporated. See, there are certain countries, even in India, in Gujarat, over the canals they have laid solar panels. So what happens when the canal water is not directly exposed continuously for a stretch to solar insolation? Evaporation gets decreased. So loss of water is stopped over there. Number two, that open area on the canal is of no use. People cannot walk, cannot make use for anything, but that open area is used for solar production. That solar rays which would have harmed waters by evaporation are made use for electricity generation. So it's always more judicious use, and improved infrastructure can help in what? In conservation efforts. That's very important. So sustainable water management, improved infrastructure, and conservation efforts. Plus, of course, because again these are to do with riparian rights, as I said. If it is just inside India, inside the country, between states, central government will come into picture. But if it is in a state like, in a case like your Indus water, last 2 months back, in the month of March, Indian government has written to Pakistan government saying that now it's more than 25 years about Indus water treaty, so we want to review it. There is nothing wrong, because both are stakeholders in it. So things have changed a lot in 25 years. So water sharing, whatever was in 25 years back, cannot be the same. So sitting across. For that, what do you need? You need international cooperation is vital to ensure equitable access and prevent conflicts. This is very important. Climate change mitigation is essential to safeguard freshwater supplies in the long term. So solving the freshwater crisis is crucial for human well-being, ecosystems, not only human being, ecosystems, and global food security. So for all this freshwater issue needs to be addressed with. So that's in 150 words. More than that we cannot write. Now, next question is, how are fjords formed? Why do they constitute some of the most picturesque areas of the world? These are two different things. Number one is, it's about physical geography, that how fjords are formed over there. So formation is being questioned. That's one part of the question. Second is, how does it fetch? Because he is saying already that they are most picturesque, that is more attractive places. Usually when you say picturesque, he means to say tourism, because people visit there as very good tourist places. So why do they become that such tourist places, and how are they formed? That is the question. So for that, they are, first say what fjords are. Long, narrow, deep inlets of the sea. Start with the definition only, because question was very simple. How are fjords formed? So their formation is being questioned. So straight away first talk about that. They are the long, narrow, deep inlets of the sea, typically characterized by steep cliffs or slopes along their sides. They are formed through a geological process that involves glaciation, erosion, and sea level changes. That's in 3 lines. Fjords is defined. See, what happens is, in a glacial topography, this usually happens in permafrost conditions, that is in Scandinavian countries towards their northern side or towards their northeast and northwest, when there are mountains or cliffs on the seashores, and because they are permafrost conditions, precipitation over there takes place in the form of snow. So there are glaciated mountains, mountain glaciers you have, and they will in turn can become valley glaciers also. And when a glacier under pressure starts moving down, usually if it is a glacier like in the case of Siachen, it will come down and it will become a continental glacier or valley glacier, and after that it moves forward, and after a point it starts melting and it becomes a glaciofluvial topography. Till that extent it is fine. But in this case, as I said, it is Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, those I am talking about. In those places, they are straight away on the seashore. So once when a glacier moves down from the mountain, it straight away goes and jumps into the sea. It literally bogs into the sea, and when a glacier is moving down into the sea, see, frankly, when a glacier is moving, its impact of erosion in the form of abrasion, attrition, whatever it is so removing the ground beneath it through an action that we call it as scooping. In case of glacial topography, we call it as scooping. So in the case of that scooping activity by that glacier, that ground will be dug so much deep that it will, when the glacier goes and empties itself into the sea, the valley or the trough that is already eroded by the glacier is so deep that sea level is more higher than this valley after the glacier gets emptied into the sea. Till the glacier is there, the glacier has equated that height. But when glacier has moved down, the glacial trough is so low that waters will come inside onto the mainland, but not onto the entire mainland, only into this valley, into this trough, glacial trough. So that inlet of such waters, which usually is long, narrow, deep inlets of the sea, that happens usually along the cliffs or the slopes in those areas, and they are formed through a geological process involving either glaciation or erosion. Again, this erosion is invariably by glacier only. Usually 90% it does not happen in fluvial topography. In extreme cases only it can happen, but generally it happens in glacial topography. Or in a normal sea river valley it is there, but suddenly it is not that valley went down, now sea level has increased up. That can be because of glacial melt elsewhere, ice melt elsewhere, eustatic sea level changes happening. Even that can be a reason for sea level changes. When sea level changes everywhere globally, those waters will gush inside back into this delta of that river, and again it's a fjord that gets formed. So what are those conditions? Number one, glaciation. Just now we have discussed it. Fjords originate during periods of glaciation when massive glaciers advance from the mountains towards the sea. As glaciers flow downhill, they carve deep valleys through the bedrock due to their immense weight and erosive power. That's what we have discussed already. Sea level changes when the climate warms or glaciers melt. It can be any way. The sea levels rise, valleys carved by glaciers become submerged, creating the narrow inlets that we call it as fjords, or U-shaped valleys. Again, U-shaped valleys are nothing but 90% again in the case of glaciers only. In some cases, see, in geomorphology there is a problem in physical geography. It is very easy to make generalizations in economic geography, but physical geography, it is not that easy to make absolute statements. We have to just talk in general, because whatever you say, there will be an exception at one or the other place on earth. So you cannot make absolute statements. So that's why we say U-shaped valleys, usually by glaciers. So often they have a distinctive U-shaped cross-section, which is a result again of glacial erosion. So the glaciers widen, deepen the valleys, leaving behind broad, deep waterways, getting into such valleys. And they are picturesque for several reasons. That's what is the second part of the question. First part is, how are they formed? That we have already discussed. Those are the three ways in which it is formed. So how are they? Why are they picturesque? For several reasons. Number one is, of course, scenic beauty. In the beginning only I said, when somebody says it's picturesque, actually this question is giving you hint itself. Answer 50% of the answer is there in the question if you understand the question. He should have asked it in other way. How fjords are important? Then you will start questioning yourself, what will be different attributes related to its significance. But he has already said picturesque, so there itself he is giving you one hint, saying that he is talking about tourism, he is talking about scenic beauty. So first talk about it only, because that is already used in the question paper. So the combination of steep cliffs, deep blue waters, surrounding mountain. Now please become some poet in yourself, bring that poet out, talk about it, because you are talking about scenic beauty end of the day. Creating stunning natural beauty, talk about it. It's okay. This is not physical geography that you need to worry about the words. You can add to it. Now, biodiversity. Fjords are often rich in marine life due to their cold, nutrient-rich waters, making them ideal for wildlife and fisheries. Because, see, this is one interacting or boundary zone between absolute saline marine waters and pure fresh waters. So that confluence zone, boundary zone, always will have very less saline waters. So it will be more diverse when it comes to life, biodiversity will be more over there rather than having a one monotype of life that happens in oceans. So that is second hallmark of this region. Of course, when there is scenic beauty, it will lead to tourism. So recreational opportunities such as hiking, kayaking, wildlife viewing, attracting tourists, outdoor enthusiasts, talk about it, no issues. That's number 3. And unique geography, of course it is unique, not found elsewhere or anywhere and everywhere. It is very much localized, very much, as I said, you cannot find this in tropical areas, impossible. Impossible. You cannot find it in tropical areas, because in tropical areas basically you don't have snowfall. Exceptions being, please, exceptions being very high mountains. And when will that happen? That high mountain should be exactly on the shore. It is not there anywhere, so that does not happen. So usually this happens above temperate regions, frigid or torrid or frigid regions. So this is unique. This is very much localized. So their location of intersection of number 1 land, sea. So different biotic environments or ecosystems, their interaction in between. So this all becomes unique geography, which is photogenic as far as the natural features on Earth are concerned. So overall, these fjords are not only geologically fascinating, of course they are geologically fascinating, but also visually captivating. Please make a mention, because his question is divided into 2. See, now you can ask me, why are we wasting our time in a mains examination discussing about scenic beauty of fjord? What to do? The question is, he has used a word picturesque. So you should be very much aware that whatever is asked should be served. It is not that whatever you serve, he would take. So look at the demand that is required by UPSC. Just make use of those words. Play safe. Be alert with the terminology. So visually captivating, making them highly sought after destinations for travelers and natural enthusiasts. So what? Picturesque. That's what it is. So this is answer for that. Now, this is where in the introduction discussion today I made a mention of this. This question is not a straight question. In fact, the intention of UPSC in asking this question is to prove that still he is UPSC. If it's a personified human being, then still he is UPSC. Otherwise, उसको indigestion हो जाता है, वो नहीं कर सकता है. He cannot just ask straight questions and keep quiet. At least, fortunately, there is only one such question as far as geography is concerned. Others are almost straight and they are to the point. But this, at least, for the one who is writing for the first time mains, will stop him, make him to think for 5 minutes. It compels him. Let's see what and why I am saying that so much. What is he saying? The question is, southwest monsoon called Purvaya. We should thank him that he had some mercy, that he had translated it. But very cunning fellow, he had translated it only to put you in soup, only to confuse you, only to further aggravate the problem he has translated. I'll come to that. And what is the second trap for you? This is trap number 1. This is trap number 2 in the question. Huge traps. You will sit there. You cannot move. Now, this is a solution for one who want to get out of the trap. So that is there inbuilt in the question, but it's a very wise and a cunning question, let me tell you. Now let's discuss what exactly it is. He is talking about southwest monsoon. Roughly when you talk about India like this, okay, and when you say southwest monsoon, this is south for us, this is west for us, this is east for us. So obviously southwest monsoon is that wind. Now whoever is writing mains certainly will know that these are those that give rainfall to mainland India that comes to us in the month of June. So this is that southwest monsoon. And what is he saying? Southwest, when you say southwest monsoon, they are not easterlies. And what is the word he is using? Easterly. Actually, Purvaya means the one in Hindi. The word is originated from Hindi. पूरब से जो आता है वो पुरवैया होता है. That which comes from east is Purvaya. Now, sir, this is east. This is west. Our set of monsoons that enter into India are from west or southwest. There is no east involved here. And what is he saying? Why is the southwest monsoon called Purvaya in Bhojpur region? Now, the question is, does this Bhojpur region get southwest monsoon, or does it get something else that is Purvaya, that is easterlies? Now we know that we are not in easterly belt, we are in westerlies, we know that. So normal easterlies is ruled out. And that too, he is very specific about Bhojpur, that's trap only. Please forget about Bhojpur. Now, the problem is when such specific things come in the examination, immediately our mind will forget the entire question and it will go and concentrate on Bhojpur region, Bihar. So does Bihar has anything to do with other than southwest monsoon? Or when does rain comes to Bihar? What is that season? What are those winds? So this is where your thought process gets stuck. That's why I said it's a trap. That's the reason why I'm saying he has wantedly pulled you to make you stop over there and kill your time. Otherwise, technically, let's discuss this. We know that when this southwest monsoon is going into mainland in the month of June, one branch gets cut over here. That enters into Bay of Bengal, via which it enters into mainland, fetching moisture from here. Now, which is this direction? East. And impact of this is not alone on Bhojpur region, please. But he has that liberty to mention Bhojpur region because it is also one region. Otherwise, go and search the climate data given by Government of India and Government of Bihar. Entire Bihar gets its rainfall in southwest monsoon period, that is between June and September only. It will not get its rainfall in northeast monsoon period, that is retreat of monsoon. It doesn't get at that time. So it doesn't get in easterlies time. 90% of the rainfall of that entire rainfall it receives, Bhojpur district, I am telling. Bhojpur region is Bhojpur district. Let's take it that way. Because Bhojpuri is language, Bhojpur is district. So he is not saying Bhojpuri. So we are not talking about region. Even if he is talking about region also, it's one and the same. It is not varying when it comes to the climatic region. Both are in the same climatic region. Both receive rainfall with southwest monsoon only. Northeast monsoon does not give rainfall to this area until and unless it's some cyclonic disturbance of that sort. That's why 90% we are saying, to be on a safer side. So 90% of the rainfall is received by southwest monsoon, and much of it comes in the month of June and July only. So in no way southwest monsoon, easterlies have nothing to do with, that is regular easterlies, that is northeastern winds have nothing to do with the rainfall of Bhojpur region. So it is southwest monsoon only. If so, then why is it that they are called easterlies? It is just because they are coming from a different direction. And please, monsoon mechanism is not changing. That mechanism is part and parcel of monsoon mechanism, and somehow this has become, people know. When we talk about Vastu Shastra, which is part of your architectural science, they say that you cannot have your main doors and big windows towards south. They say it is towards that direction, which is not good. Climatologically speaking, I'm not getting into Vastu Shastra right now or architecture. Climatologically speaking, we get rains from which direction? Southwest. So that's the reason why towards south, so towards southwest, never doors and windows are allowed, because rain will straight away enter into the house. So these are those things that have become part of culture. So even this Purvaya has become a part of the culture of that region. Why I'm talking about this? Because second part of the question talks about what? How has this directional seasonal wind system influenced the cultural ethos of the region? That's why I'm getting into Vastu Shastra and everything. It is not that I'm bringing that into geography, but that question talks about it. So how, see, when it comes to poetry and everything, there are many famous songs in Bollywood also. Savan Ka Mahina Pavan Kareshwar of the great Mukesh and Lata. In all those, from then on, till the most recent Bollywood songs, everywhere the word Purvaya is used, and all those Purvayas, wherever it is used, is in the connotation of onset of monsoon. That's why I'm talking about Bollywood. Otherwise, please don't write about Bollywood in the exam answer. Not required. But for you to understand that it is part of, see, what comes in Bollywood, it should, now every movie nowadays is not a reflection of culture. That's unfortunate development. But usually, people also say that. Look at 1950s movie. Why? When you see it, you see the cultural aspects of that particular society of that time. So, this cultural aspect is reflected in the poetry, in the songs, in the conversations, in the picturization. Always that will be there. And Purvaya is one word that is in length, profusely used in North India, across Bihar, across Uttar Pradesh, across, yes, Jharkhand. All this north belt you have, wherever you have Hindi influence, Purvaya is used for onset of monsoons. And those regions that get rainfall from this area. And how is it influenced, the wind system has influence on the culture? Of course. Not only in that case, not only the Bhojpur region or the Purvaya, even in South India, we will sing or we will talk about those winds that bring rainfall for us, that is westerlies. We might not say Purvaya, but we will say our rains. So rains are always wound up or intertwined with the culture of the people. So that's why that particular usage is there. So let's see the answer, how we can try to put it. The southwest monsoon is commonly said to have two branches, the Arabian Sea branch and the Bay of Bengal branch that we have discussed. They are completely to each other. They are complementary to each other, but sometimes in competition. That's okay. If the Arabian Sea branch is very active in June, the monsoon may even reach North India via the Arabian Sea across Gujarat into Rajasthan towards Delhi. But otherwise, normally, this does not happen. The southwesterly winds that blow across the southern peninsula make an about turn over the Bay of Bengal and reach the northern plains as easterlies. This is very important. So the monsoon advances into West Bengal, then Bihar, then Jharkhand, then Uttar Pradesh, finally comes towards Delhi and Rajasthan. So first we are trying to explain in the first paragraph that how Purvaya is nothing but southwest monsoon. First we have to establish that. Otherwise, it will give an indication saying that southwest monsoon is different. This is something else with some other mechanism which will put you in soup, because entire India has a major 99.9%, 0.1%, I want to be safe, precipitation that is tied up with monsoons only. Thus, over the Indian peninsula, the setting in of the westerlies in the lower levels of the atmosphere signals arrival of the monsoon, but over the plains of northern India, it is the setting in of the easterlies that heralds the coming of the monsoon. Thus, the monsoon trough low pressure establishes itself, and there are westerlies to the south and easterlies to its north. So this is the technical explanation how it is southwest monsoon as Purvaya. And now the second part, that is why it is part of culture, that also needs to be explained. This will change, these monsoons, this Purvaya will change in the wind direction over North India, and it ends the scorching summer, very cruel summer, because mind you, it's Bhojpur region. So at least if not alone Bhojpur region, entire Bihar has a curse in summer. Not entire Bihar alone. I don't mean to say that. From Pakistan, from west to east till Bihar, you have one horrible mechanism that happens in summer, that you call it as Lu. Very hot winds, local winds, Lu winds we call them, which are killer winds that happen in the months of May, mid-afternoons usually they come, hot, dusty, and they are never a welcome for people because of sunstrokes and other related aspects. Many people die because of Lu impact. So these hot winds blow from Rajasthan desert, and temperatures always soar above 45 degrees also, and more higher than, which are punishing temperatures, never welcome for people. So these easterlies, what they do, they immediately cool down the atmosphere. You know, onset of monsoons at times, in a single day, a day before that also, people are waving their fans, sitting under the air conditioners, cursing the sun. In a day, in an hour or two, it becomes such a cloud cover, and in minutes, that breeze, that soothing, and that too, it's a transition for a person. It is just like, for an example, you come under the sun, walk for 1 hour mid-May, and come into an AC room. The relief that you feel, so will be the relief between the transition of these seasons. And there is a change in the air. There is singing and dancing, swinging on the Savan ke Jhule. See, these are, because he has talked about culture. You cannot avoid these terminologies. You have to make a note of it, that man without culture is an animal. And he is talking about a mechanism, that to climatic mechanism related to human society, a particular region. You have to be very specific, if possible, the terminology used in those cultural contexts of those regions. So, Savan ke, that's what I was, in our discussion, I was talking about Bollywood songs also. So, don't make a mention in the examination. That's a different thing. So, Savan ke Jhule is one particular thing that people, young girls and young boys, tie swings on the tree branches, and they have peaceful time for themselves, singing and dancing, enjoy. And the lal dupattas and bigi chunariyas, they see some sort of, I had to add this spice just to give that cultural ethos sort of thing for that. But the rivers get full, and the boats and nayas are set sailing. So it's all a next level of life comes into every aspect. No wonder then that the wind blowing from the east or the Purvaya has been a favorite theme of many Hindi film songs. So that's where just wind up the answer. Next one is, This happens to be 250, I think, words question. Comment on the resource potentials of the long coastline of India and highlight the status of natural hazard preparedness in these areas. So this question has two parts. Part number one is, let's just forget comment on the, otherwise, resource potentials of the long coastline of India. So that's a statement. That means India has a long coastline. Everybody has to accept that's a fact. In thousands of kilometers we have long coastline. And how potential it is as far as its resource connotation is concerned. So that needs to be discussed in first part. Please, because it's 250 words, so make it into 4 or 5 paragraphs and see to it that first half you dedicate to resource potentials, second half you discuss how they are threatened by natural hazards first. So first discuss those natural hazards and then talk about your preparedness, that is mitigation for that, overcoming those natural hazards. That's what the question is. Always in mains, don't jump writing the answers until and unless first you analyze the question properly. Until and unless you get a proper understanding, comprehensive understanding of the whole answer, whole question, there is no point in answering, because at times you end up either completing the word limit but you don't write even half the question. So that's a disaster. Be careful about it. India boasts one of the longest coastlines in the world. So that's a positive line that we have picked up from the question. Stretching approximately 7,000. These words are always safe for you. You need not to be very precise in how many kilometers. Say approximately 7,500 kilometers along both on the eastern and western sides, that is on Bay of Bengal side and Arabian Sea side. So this vast coastal region offers a multitude of resource potentials, but it also faces, because question is in two. First you say it is a multitude of resource potential. Second you say it faces various natural hazards, and say, because he asked about mitigating, talk about it, necessitating effective preparedness and management. In these 2-3 lines, you have first positively accepted that his statement is correct. Second, you have given how worthy that coastline is through its length and through its direction. So minimum introduction to the question is given over there. Third thing, you are also saying that yes, there are potential threats and preparedness needs to be made for that. So first talk about resource, because that is the primary one. You have to first attempt that only. Talk about resource potentials. What are they? When you talk about coastline, from the days of the oldest known human civilization, see, always your answer should be very basic, nascent, to the point. Don't overthink on it and don't try to unnecessarily turn the answer, because when you talk about water resources, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Even before you started agriculture, you started fishing as human civilization. Your civilization in the most nascent form also has started its survival only through hunting, and fishing is one form of hunting. I'm not talking about mechanized boats going into seas, but at least you were on the shore and catching the available fish. So fishing was primary one. Talk about it, because that's the first potential resource. India's coast waters are rich in marine biodiversity, supporting a thriving fishing industry. It provides a significant source of livelihood and nutrition to coastal communities. So resource number one is fisheries. Of course, number two happens to be tourism. The picturesque beaches, diverse ecosystems, historical sites along the Indian coastline make it a prime destination for tourism, and this industry generates income and employment opportunities for local people. That's the resource potential number two for coastlines. Number three, trade and transport. Ports and trade. Coastal areas are hubs for major ports, facilitating trade and commerce. These ports are essential for the country's economic growth, handling a substantial portion of India's imports and exports. That's huge. In 2 lines, you have said everything. And even this ports, one of the oldest also were doing your business as far as ports are concerned from the oldest known days. Of course, it has developed, that's a different thing. 4th one is minerals. Coastal regions often contain valuable mineral deposits. You know about Kerala, such as heavy minerals, salt, rare earth elements which can contribute to industrial development. See, if you observe, we are not getting to anything very particular. If you want to add in this answer, only thing that you can add is at ports and trade, add 1 or 2 names of ports. At minerals, add monazite sands, for example, Kerala. So, in that way, 1 or 2 maximum examples, because you have to talk about everything, you have to take care of the word limit. That you should not forget. Be careful. 5th one is agriculture. Coastal plains are fertile and they support agriculture, contributing to food production and the economy. So this is where you talked about it in more diversified manner as far as 5 aspects are concerned in the context of resources. Now the second part of the question is natural hazard preparedness, because that's a huge thing that he has talked about it. Though it has significant opportunities, it is also vulnerable, exposed to natural hazards. And what are they? Make a mention: cyclones, tsunamis, coastal erosion. So the status of natural hazard preparedness in these areas, it varies depending upon the problem. So cyclone preparedness. It has a substantial progress in cyclone preparedness as far as our country is concerned, with establishment of what? Early warning systems. By God's grace, we have absolute mechanism of cyclone preparedness on this present day. Early warnings come weekdays before for us, and the governments evacuate people in lakhs if required. So always this early warning mechanism, because we have very good now satellite technology always helping us in predicting the climatic conditions, and cyclone shelters are always far away from the shore, of course 100 kilometers, 50 kilometers inside the main hinterland, and there you have safe zones, shelters for people. Whichever are the frequent cyclone hit areas, this mechanism is a permanent mechanism that is set up over there. These measures have significantly reduced casualties during cyclone events, because anything can be recaptured, can be renewed, but life cannot be. So always the primary motive of either the government or administration or anyone in such cases always would be to have to minimize the death toll or the fatal numbers. So always it is to reduce the casualties will be the primary motive. Tsunami warning system. Prior to 2004, in fact, India never was worried about this, because Japan is one country which frequently sees tsunami the way we see wind blowing every day. If not on a daily basis, tsunami is something that is so frequent for them, so usual for them. Even the word, it starts with TSU, and it's a Japanese word, tsunami. Before 2004, except for geography students or UPSC students, nobody knew tsunami. But thanks to 2004 tsunami, which came in Bay of Bengal near Indonesia, it has shown what devastation a tsunami can bring to the mainland. Thousands have died in India, and crores of rupees got wiped off, washed off. And for the first time, December 26, 2004, we have seen that what a tsunami can do. Before that, we hadn't proper early warning systems, but post 2004 devastation, we now have proper tsunami warning systems. We have developed those warning systems and alerts and mitigating impacts. And now once you know that, because even tsunami, when it started in Indonesia, in 2004 I am talking, it took 6 to 7 minutes to reach mainland of Tamil Nadu. That's enough. 6 to 7 minutes is something that even if people become crazy and start running, they will save their lives. From the beaches, from the shores, going on to some top stages or some higher altitudes, or taking their vehicles and running away. Everything is possible. So always that warning systems will help people. That preparedness is the best mitigative effort, because anyhow you cannot stop tsunami, you cannot avoid a tsunami. Only thing is you have to reduce maximum life damage that can happen, or if possible property damage. But usually in a tsunami case, property damage cannot be avoided until and unless you have a mechanism that is used in Japan, where wooden logs are they are buried all along the seashore, such that when the killer wave goes, washes off everything and comes back, when it comes back, it cannot take off all the mobile property along with it, along with those logs. That properties like cars or automobiles, they get stuck, and probably people can make use of it. Otherwise, usually tsunami doesn't spare, it has no mercy. Coastal erosion management. This is one problem that is always there along the coast. It's a natural problem. It has nothing to do with man. Man induces it or accelerates it. That's a different thing. So coastal erosion is a significant challenge impacting infrastructure, that is your roads, railway tracks, all these communication links get cut off. And coastal management initiatives, including the construction of sea walls and beach nourishment, that is putting your molded, precast molded cement, these things along the beach will allow the beach to be more strong and resistant to erosion by sea waves and all those things. These are to address erosion issues in these particular areas. And of course, a proper disaster response management, that is, you should have NDRFs, that is National Disaster Response Forces, and a proper mechanism equipped with all trained, well-equipped quick response teams spread out at different nooks and corners of the country. Not that they are all stationed in Delhi, thing comes and goes and then they will reach, it's of no use. So by our experiences, we all throughout the country, now India has NDRF teams, SDRF teams, that is State Disaster Response Forces. So all this mechanism is very much in place, and these are usually very good when it comes to relief efforts, because they are trained, they don't get panic, they have equipment that helps them in fighting the disaster more aptly and more actively. So in that way, these agencies will work to minimize the impact of disasters and provide assistance to affected communities. So to conclude this answer, despite these efforts, after everything said and done, challenges remain, including the need for improved infrastructure resilience, community awareness amongst the people, and sustainable development practices in coastal areas, not harming the environment, the ecology. So sustainable development is always the mantra for good ecological stay for human being, along with other things. So continuous investment in hazard preparedness and response is essential to safeguard both the resource potentials as well as the lives and livelihoods of those living along the India's extensive coastline. So after this, next question happens to be: identify and discuss the factors responsible for diversity of natural vegetation in India. Assess the significance of wildlife sanctuaries in rainforest regions of India. In fact, these questions should not be less than 3,000, 4,000 words. Such is that question. What is he saying? Identify, discuss the factors responsible for what? Diversity of natural vegetation in India. Now this is 50% of the question. Next, assess the significance of wildlife sanctuaries in rainforest regions of India. First of all, let's tackle point number 1. Diversity of natural vegetation, does it exist in India? It exists, because in physical geography we start with a statement saying that India is a subcontinent. What do you mean by India is a subcontinent? You mean to say that it has so many varied varieties of climatic conditions. You have absolute deserts on western side. You have world's highest rainfall on the eastern end. You have world's highest mountain chain on the northern end. You have one of the toughest blocks when it comes to terrain in the southern end. And it's a peninsula surrounded by sea or ocean on the 3 sides. And you have all sorts of biomes. Whatever the biomes you talk about in the world, what's biomes? Biological homes. So all biomes that are spread throughout the world are also found in India. You have tropical, of course, somewhere you might miss temperate to an extent. You have tropical, you have frigid, you have desert, what not? All sorts of climatic conditions. And when you say varied climatic conditions, then their impact, that is varied temperatures, varied pressure, varied precipitation, leading to varied vegetation, leading to, when vegetation is varied, leading to varied animal kingdom. So first, if it is varied climate, it will lead to varied flora, then it will lead to varied fauna. So there is no doubt that there is a diversity of natural vegetation in India. First, we have to accept it. So, discuss the factors responsible for that diversity of vegetation is diversity of climatic conditions. It's as simple as it is. So, next one is significance of wildlife sanctuaries and rainforests. So, let's see one after the other. Factors responsible for diversity of natural vegetation in India. First, we have to tackle that. And what is that? Geographical variation. It's a 3.2 million square kilometers country. One of the biggest countries. So it shall have diverse geography. It shall have diverse landforms. It shall have diverse climatic conditions. Then that all leads to diverse vegetations. Its diverse geography, including Himalayan mountain range, vast plains, plateaus, long coastline. This all what? Wide range of climates and ecosystems. This variation also is in altitude, in temperature, in rainfall, contributes to rich diversity of natural vegetation. Your introductory remark. Then climate. It experiences a variety of climatic conditions from arid deserts in the west, that's what I was saying just now, tropical rainy forests in the northeast, then climate zones support different types of vegetation from xerophytic, that is desert type of plants in arid regions, to evergreen forests in areas with high rainfall. So you have all sorts of biomes are also existing. Then what is the responsible reason? Monsoons, that is a unifying. In that diversity, if there is some unifying element, then it is monsoons. The seasonal monsoons play a crucial role in determining the distribution of vegetation. The southwest monsoon brings heavy rains to the western coast, leading to lush tropical forests, while the northeast monsoon influences the vegetation of the eastern coast. So we have talked about diversities, reason for diversities, unifying aspect of it, and of course another more important one is altitude, because as one ascends in altitude, always there is a change in vegetation zones which is natural anywhere, and that is also there in our country, from tropical to subtropical forest to temperate to alpine vegetation. So the Himalayas with their varied elevations showcase this diversity of all sorts of forests alone in this alpine Himalayan zone that we have. And soil types, We have all sorts of soil types that are required for us. You have alluvial, you have red and yellow soils, you have the arid soils, you have black cotton soils, you have laterite soils. All sorts of soils are there. Different soil types such as alluvial, red, black, laterite. They support various types of vegetation. So soil fertility, their pH levels, moisture content influence plant growth. So thus these are responsible for varied natural vegetation. Along with it, human activities. This is one of the oldest civilization in the world. So its activities also will be diverse because of very long, prolonged history it has in those activities. Agriculture, urbanization, deforestation. Don't forget, when I said oldest civilization, that was urban civilization in the world, only urban civilization at that time. It has altered natural vegetation patterns. So forest clearing, land use changes have reduced the extent of many natural ecosystems that were there earlier. So in this background, let's see significance of wildlife sanctuaries in rainy forest regions of India. The first one is, what is the significance of these wildlife sanctuaries in rainforest regions is biodiversity conservation. Rainforests are among the most biodiverse ecosystems on earth, and wildlife sanctuaries in rainforest regions such as the Western Ghats, you have in Bangalore, you have Bannerghatta, etc. And Northeast India, you have provided protected habitats for a wide range of plant and animal species, many of which are endangered either or endemic only to this region. So in both the ways they are very much crucial and very much important. So the habitat preservation is the second one. The reason for that is these sanctuaries help in preserving the unique habitats and ecosystems found in rainy forests, including lush vegetation, rivers and waterfalls, which are essential for the survival of many such species which are endemic to this region only. And the third one is research and education. They serve as crucial sites for scientific research and environmental education. They are of significant importance to anthropologists. They are of significant importance to zoologists and botanical people, because these researchers study the rainforest ecosystems, species behavior, adaptations, and it contributes in understanding of ecology for us and maintaining the biodiversity of the region. And last but not the least, it helps us in tourism and strengthening the local economy, because these wildlife sanctuaries attract so many tourists from regional, national and international level. You get tourists, so always your economy is on boom, is on movement, and well-managed ecotourism can generate revenue and employment opportunities for nearby communities. Now, climate regulation is one more aspect related to these sanctuaries, because rainforests play a vital role in climate regulation by absorbing all those carbon dioxide emissions. So you have more ample greenery over there that can help in reducing the carbon presence in the atmosphere. So they will also help in releasing oxygen. They contribute to global climate stability, and their conservation helps mitigate the climate change impacts and hazards related to climate change. Of course, it also has cultural and spiritual value. Mind you, there are certain forests that are so much culturally and spiritually tied up to tribal people that even if you go and urinate in them, there are tribal laws under which they will punish you. They have their own judicial courts, local judicial courts that assemble in 1 hour, and they will pass on punishment to you, because they consider them as incarnation of gods So to that extent, they protect their forests, and that's one best conservative mechanism. So religion and culture also helps in conserving the forests. These rainforests hold cultural and spiritual significance for indigenous communities. That's what I'm saying, tribal people. Protecting these areas respects the cultural heritage of local tribes and communities. So to conclude, the diverse natural vegetation in India is influenced by geographical, because it is vast, climatic, obviously it's a subcontinental climate, and its impact on ecological factors. So these wildlife sanctuaries, because the question is specifically about it, in rainforest region plays a crucial role in conserving biodiversity, preserving habitats, advancing research, education, supporting local economies, and maintaining ecological balance. Protecting these sanctuaries is vital for India's ecological and cultural heritage. Now, last question. Does urbanization lead to more segregation and or marginalization of the poor in Indian metropolises? So, number one, urbanization. Whether will it lead to segregation and marginalization, or segregation or marginalization? You can take it in either way. Either happening, both segregation and marginalization of the poor happening because of urbanization. Either only segregation or marginalization of poor happening because of urbanization. So in one or the other way, segregation of poor or marginalization of poor are both happening or not in Indian metropolises. That's what is the question. So does it happen is the question, and by the face of it, we have to accept that it happens. Urbanization in Indian metropolises. See, because he has asked so specifically Indian, you have to say that. Otherwise, urbanization in general only has brought about both positive and negative consequences, and the impact on the poor is a complex issue. While urbanization can create opportunities which will attract the poor to come to urban centers, they are the pulling factors because they create opportunities for economic growth and their development. In lieu of that they come, but it can also lead to increased segregation and marginalization of the poor in several ways. So let's see what they are. Factors that contribute to segregation and marginalization of the poor: informal settlements, because in rapid urbanization it often leads to the growth of informal settlements or slums which are not designed properly, which do not have basic amenities, which in most of the cases do not have governmental permissions. But who is worried? He is a poor fellow. He doesn't have enough money, no purse to support him. So what does he do? Wherever there is a throwaway, unused, not meant for, not asked for, not conducive, these are all the problems. At times what happens is, there is a huge urban center, in the mid of it there is a hill. Who will go and stay on the hill? In the initial stages of the urban development, it does not happen. In the initial stages of the urban development, people will settle where there is plainy area. So that hill area happens to be that place where the first slums start growing over there. But afterwards, of course, when urban center starts becoming clogged, more pressure on per square inch starts, then because constructing houses on those hills is most costly. So normally people first don't go there, but once area has become congested, those who can afford anything to stay there will go and spend as much as possible, make it as a turnaround, and will make that as the center of the city, Like in every urban center you have, for example, in Hyderabad you have Jubilee Hills and Banjara Hills. So those are those places that earlier nobody used to worry about, nobody used to look at, but now even to just sit over there, you need to think about the price of that particular land, because that segregation starts happening in those places. So in the initial stage, slums will start in those informal settlements, either on the peripheries of the cities, that is on the last edges of the cities, where there are no basic amenities. Residents often face social exclusion and economic hardship, etc. happens over there. Limited access to services is another problem for them, because they are far away. No influential people stay there. So government, until and unless is pressurized or has a motive of doing that, otherwise will not spend crores of rupees in creating road infrastructure, electricity infrastructure, sewage infrastructure, water supply, drinking water supply infrastructure. Everything is an issue. It's not that easy to develop an urban center until and unless there is a government prompting behind that particular thing. So this lack of access can perpetuate poverty and inequality, because of lack of clean water, lack of sanitation, lack of health care, and the quality of education does not exist. All this access, limited access to all these services will lead to perpetuate further poverty and inequality. And high living costs is one reason why they are always on the peripheries, because cost of living in metropolis inside, it can be housing, it can be transportation, food, everything is so high. For poor it is prohibitive. So they cannot afford that. This will force those poor people either to go and stay away, or in a clumsy environment, in a small place, more people concentrate, so conglomerate, overcrowded, and all the amenities are inadequate in those conditions. It leads to unhealthy conditions when it comes to these particular environments. So job disparities, of course, while urban areas offer job opportunities, that is the pull factor, many of these are informal sector jobs which often pay very low wages and lack job security for them. This economic disparity can further marginalize the poor in an urban area. And one point that I was talking till now, that whichever is the high hilly area I am talking about, that is what it is. Gentrification, that is the process of wealthier residents moving into previously low income neighborhoods. That is, previously those places were never occupied by rich or even average people. They were just abandoned places because of being on a very high hill area or something of that sort, high altitude, high slopey areas. Now they will be displaced, the poor, from their homes, and communities will be removed from those places. Rich will come and occupy those places. That will, because as the rich go there, they will put lot of money in it. Property values increase. No poor fellow can afford to stay there. So again, it will lead to more inequalities and problems related to this particular thing. And social segregation, of course, urban areas can also be socially segregated, with poor living separate neighborhoods and having limited interaction with the wealthier residents. What happens is, you have usually in cities, you can see you have colonies that enter into the colony. You will understand the social status or the earning levels or the economic levels of that particular area, depending upon even the look of the house, the streets, the amenities that are there. So that itself indicates what? You have perfect pockets, zones in each and every urban center that has different zones for different level of people staying over there. But in a long run, that will lead to social segregation of population also. So lack of affordable housing happens to be one such major reason, because people cannot afford. Hence, they get into hazardous housings, building huts and temporary houses on the streams, on the banks of the streams, along the slopes. So all them, they make them vulnerable for disasters and eviction at a later stage. Now, what are the countermeasures to mitigate such segregation and marginalization? Because you have to understand that urbanization is to stay. It has come to stay. You cannot avoid urbanization. What you can avoid is negative impacts of urbanization. You can either avoid or minimize or mitigate them. Urbanization is like your cyclone. You cannot stop it. It happens because always every individual is in lure of better life, better opportunities, and urban centers are the pull centers, rural centers are the push centers. So urbanization has come to stay with us. Only thing is, you have to think of countermeasures to mitigate such segregation and marginalization. So affordable housing, that should be the primary motive of any government. In a day it is not possible, in a year it is not possible, but in a phased manner. Now, it cannot be a luxurious house, but at least roof on the head, minimum amenities of cooking place, sleeping place, sanitary place, washroom, and a living space. So a minimum of such accommodation, if it is created as apartments or whatever it is, so as community housing schemes, then that will decrease or decongest the slums and all those negative issues. Social safety nets, like you are providing the benefits in the form of food assistance program, national food assistance program, that already we have running in India. 80 crore people are fed on a monthly basis today is not a small thing. Unemployment benefits, providing a safety net for vulnerable urban population makes them at least little bit more safe from those vulnerabilities. So third thing is, first provide them affordable house. Second, some sort of social safety net. Then immediately enhancing those resources, because end of the day, who are they? They are those human resources which are not properly enriched as far as skill sets are concerned, or they cannot market their skill sets to the extent that they get their proper wages back. So where should government step in? Government should create these vocational trainings, skill management, skill development centers, and enhance minimum skills that are required for a person to earn his decent livelihood. If not becoming a millionaire, but a decent and better livelihood, such that this urban related whatever the negative aspects are there, that can be overcome. Inclusive urban planning as much as possible, because it is very easy to say but not easy to implement, because on a daily basis when people are getting in, every other day government cannot demolish the entire city and plan newly. But only thing is, when it is urban town planning, when it comes, don't allow new constructions, keep some no construction zones, keep some oxygen spaces, free spaces. Then rather than vertical expansion of the city, think of horizontal expansion of the city, or think of more satellite towns around the cities. Create one satellite town, make it self-sufficient with all the amenities that are required. In such case, urban planning should prioritize inclusive policies that provide equitable access to services. That is, in everywhere you have proper services and infrastructure for all residents regardless of income. That can be one. And community development, empowering local communities to participate in decision-making process where they should feel that it is their city, so they have have to abide by the rules and they have to follow these norms, because until and unless there is social participation, you cannot achieve anything. It's impossible. Only government can do anything. So social exclusion is never a solution for anything. Only social inclusion. So make them part and parcel of such development drive. Then the schemes will flourish. So in summary, urbanization in Indian metropolis offers economic opportunities, no doubt about it. It also poses challenges, no doubt about it, in terms of what segregation and marginalization of the poor. So addressing these issues require a multifaceted approach that includes affordable housing, improved access to services, social safety nets, inclusive urban planning to ensure that the benefits of the urbanization are shared with more residents and in an equitable manner rather than the resources being captivated by a section of people. So this is more than 250 words. You cannot write more than this. So in this way, these are those 7 questions related straight away from geography. We have tried to put it in a nutshell. Anywhere 5% additions like data somewhere, because what I was concentrating when I was trying to formulate answers for these questions is word limit is number 1, because I always believe precision, not going out of the scope, touching the question properly, answering the question the way UPSC wants, and giving the related data. So all of them I have tried to encompass, and no question over here except for southwest monsoon, that is Purvaya question. No question almost requires a map over here. So that's even a rough map also is not required. Only in that case of Purvaya, if somebody just gives a rough sketch, that probably adds more flavor to the answer. Otherwise, I'm sure you people might have done in the same way or more better than this. So best of luck for your result. Thank you.